You were a W-2 employee for 30 years.
I was a commuter every day. So either I was on a bus or I was in a van pool taking that commute every day into a cube. It was the little cube monkey time.
Hey, sales headers, welcome to season 2 of Beyond the Business Plan, where heart meets hustle and every episode inspires you on your entrepreneurial journey. I'm LeAnn Lyon, and together we'll chart new courses, tackle challenges, and celebrate those big wins with expert guests, honest stories, and plenty of joy along the way. If you love the show, tap follow, subscribe, leave a quick review, or join our conversation with hashtag JoyMinder, because your support helps us reach and inspire more entrepreneurs. Set sail on your business adventure with Beyond the Business Plan. Today, I am thrilled to introduce Sharon Riddle, a seasoned professional with over 30 years of experience in providing business solutions as a W-2 before launching her entrepreneurial journey in 2005. Alongside her husband and business partner, Dan, Sharon ventured into real estate, initially focusing on single-family properties before transitioning into multifamily investments in 2015. To date, they've passively invested in 3,507 units across the United States with a passion for philanthropy and a goal to guide 100 individuals or families into multifamily investment. Sharon, Dan, and Otter are making significant strides in the real estate world. Sharon, are you there?
I'm popping right in.
There she is. Hey, Sharon. 3,507 as of the date of this recording and counting. How fun is that?
It is, you need a lot of systems and processes, to be quite honest with you. And so that's really something that we can certainly discuss as an entrepreneur. So you don't go crazy because you're wearing all those hats.
Now, real estate is something that we actually have in common. I also hold my real estate license in the state of Minnesota, and I do referrals all over the nation if people are looking for great qualified people to work with. What's interesting is with what you do, you're doing multifamily investments. Do you have to have a real estate license for that?
I do not. What I have, I've sought out, however, over a 20-year journey, just in the real estate alone, is mentors and coaches.
Oh, excellent.
Mentors and coaches. I tried to avoid being a lone wolf. Sometimes as an entrepreneur, you do have those lone wolf times. And those are kind of lonely times because you feel like, the weight of everything is on you. But Dan and I really did try to undergird our entrepreneurial journey with the coaches and mentors who led us to other vendors as well. Vendors and contractors. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It can be lonely, especially sometimes in the beginning of starting an entrepreneurial journey. If you were a W-2 employee for 30 years, I'm going to guess, based on when that more or less ended, that you were going into an office, that you were, driving to work and had a lunchroom or some way that you did lunch. Am I right?
Yes, I was a commuter. So I commuted from Denton, Texas into Dallas every day. So either I was on a bus or I was in a van pool. But 4 different times in my W-2 career, my professional career, I was in downtown Dallas, making that commute every day into a cube. So it wasn't like it was a room with a view. It was the little cube monkey time that you're walking outside the building just to get light, because especially if you're trying to beat the traffic in downtown Dallas at that time, we were going in really early. So like 6:30 in the morning, you were in your cube, you were turning on your computer. You're doing that. And then, it's dark when you get home.
That's so similar to my story when I was a teacher. I had an inside classroom, no window. Now, you live in Texas, but I live in Minnesota. The sun comes up after 8, goes down before 5, sometimes earlier. And so during the winter months, I could literally not see the sun at all Monday through Friday for weeks on end. It was crazy.
So in Texas, we do get more sun, which thank goodness we do, because I'm kind of like a sunflower and I need that sun, and I need to just kind of follow the sun wherever it's going.
Well, we all are. We all.
Yeah, I know. And, it really helps our circadian rhythm. But yeah, we've always, well, as a third generation Texan, I've been in Texas for some time. So kind of my family's deeply rooted, and we've grown up with Texas, for over 100 years.
Well, as they say, bloom where you're planted.
Deeply rooted, and we've been blooming all the time.
No, I love that. Yeah, another fact about interesting fact, I think, but interesting, sad, but just a fact. In Minnesota, we are so, as a culture, vitamin D deficient. And I think that's becoming more widespread everywhere because people spend so much time indoors. But vitamin D deficiency is a really big thing in Minnesota. So we have higher incidences of many different things that, can result from a vitamin D deficiency. And
that you bring that up, LeAnn, because just recently the vitamin D deficiency popped up in my blood work.
Oh.
And going to the endocrinologist. So, I'm in my 60s now.
Mm-hmm.
Been in business for a long time, and that just recently had popped up on the radar screen.
Yeah.
But my dad, who was in construction for many, many years and an entrepreneur himself, after he left his construction work, the vitamin D deficiency popped up in his blood work as well. So he was having to supplement, and I'm having to supplement some too.
Yeah. Well, it's a good idea to supplement. And switching back to the entrepreneurship thing, I mean, when you shift, your situation, and, I went from a classroom without a window to being able to get outside. I often take meetings standing by the creek in my backyard on my phone. Why not? I can do that. My boss doesn't get mad at me. What do you love most about being an entrepreneur versus the W-2?
Well, I love that to have a home office that has a patio and a window. So I've got the light, got some light today, even though it is overcast. But I like the fact that I have more space. As a Texan, we like our space. So I am not constrained in a smaller space. I have a larger office. You take up that space. I'm looking to really back in and maximize the space to my best ability, because I've had so much space. I'm in the process of really, from time to time, you have to declutter as an entrepreneur, because, you accumulate a lot of things. So you just have to declutter. And that's what I enjoy, because I can take that space. And what I enjoyed from single family and into multifamily, I am in charge of my time. I'm in charge of my time.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Because as an entrepreneur, most people, if you say, "Why do you want to become an entrepreneur?" They eventually, sometimes they'll say some version of, "I just want to be in control. I want to own something. I have an idea." But it often comes down to some form of freedom that they're looking for: a time freedom, a money freedom. Just the freedom to choose where you're going to have lunch or what you're going to do with your day, or, the tradition that many people say, well, I want to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want. That's great. That's a form of freedom as well. So, but you've talked mostly about the freedom of space and choice, it sounds like. Am I right?
Yes. Well, I will say I do value time freedom a great deal. And an example of that is that for the last 2 Christmases, the whole week of Christmas, we have gone and we have visited my daughter, who lives in Washington, D.C. So we just it was kind of like Dan has his plant shut down. He's in aerospace.
Okay.
So kind of that shut down. So we were just shutting down our business time and setting aside that time exclusively as family time. And we kind of just kept that time very sacred. And I will say what's been very interesting being an entrepreneur since we started that, our now 30-year-old daughter has been in negotiation with us regarding more time. So she wants more personal time from mom and dad, who, I'm exclusively the entrepreneur. But that's been an interesting development that's cropped up with our adult daughter is I mean, that's the great thing. She wants to have our time. She wants time with us.
That's great.
She calls me frequently, so I do take her calls, and I can take her calls when something is on her mind.
In fact, I just missed a call from my daughter. Sorry, honey. But
Yeah.
because, but I'm blessed like you to have daughters that they reach out and they call and I'm with you on the
Call.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been too. Now that's a whole nother thing because as sons and daughters, I mean, so far at least, and we can only speak to today because tomorrow could change. But today we both are in that situation. There's a lot that goes into raising kids that want to talk to you when they're adults. That's a whole
That's a whole nother topic, because I will tell you, I have some real estate investor friends who have not, I will say, cultivated those relationships that you and I have cultivated with our daughters.
Yeah. And I, like you, I'm the entrepreneur. My husband has a full-time professional job. Thankfully, he does get quite a bit of free time as part of his, what he does, but I have more. And so when family situations have come up, and just periodically, I do pack up my computer and I go up north. Our daughter lives up near the Canadian border, and I'll just go sit in her living room and work from there. She's at work during the day, but then we get to spend the evenings together, or I'll go up for a long weekend. And I just absolutely cherish the opportunity to just make the decision to either work or even not work up there if I'm ahead enough on the work that I'm doing, or if I have the right support system to keep my business going while I take a break. Do you have a long-term vision for where you'll take your business and being able to run it maybe after Dan can join you more full-time?
Well, what we will have to do is we will have to negotiate physical space.
You have to negotiate what?
Physical space. So where will he be? Where will I be? Because while I have a quieter voice, Dan has more of a booming voice. And so we'll have to decide where he will be. On the days that he works remotely, we put him in the center of our home. We have 3,200 square feet. Put him in the center, so then I can close the door for the office, and then I don't have the disruption. Because when he's here, he can be very distracting, LeAnn. I will tell you, very distracting. But one of the jobs that I have found as an entrepreneur and as a female entrepreneur is I'm also the house manager. Even though I'm an empty nester, I have had a slew of different contractors who have had to come through and take care of certain things because I have the time freedom, but the time freedom is finite. It's not infinite. And so Dan and I have those discussions too, because I have some rules. I can only work with so many contractors in a week.
That makes sense.
As the house manager rule. Sure. So yeah, that's on the, just keeping a house running,
So I'm going to show you something that I probably have never done before. So now anybody listening to the podcast, you won't get to see this, but you can come over to YouTube if you want to, and, get to this part of the show if you want to see what we're seeing. Sharon, tell me what you see when I move my camera.
Oh yes, you need to put in that ceiling, don't you, LeAnn?
I am in a very under construction home. And what I'm showing is, like, I have a bookcase in my office. This is my office. There's the bookcase. but it's in between a whole bunch of 2x4s, and the ceiling is undone and the venting is still going in. And yes, but to look at me normally, for any podcasting listeners that haven't seen, come on over to YouTube. I gotta adjust my camera a little bit again. And it looks very put together behind me. I've got
It really does. It's, looks more put together than my office. Say with your, with your facade with the bookcase, but yeah, you got finish out to do.
and it's real. So, I can actually go back and pick up a book and talk about it as well. So this isn't just a virtual background.
Okay, it's not virtual, it's real. Mine is real too.
Right.
Since we've been in real estate a while, you and I. We can talk about, that LeAnn's got a situation. She's down to the studs there.
Yep. Well, on top of it, my contractor is my husband. See, when he takes time off to work on the house, which he does occasionally, he'll take some of his weeks of vacation and he'll just stay here and work. And then we do have to negotiate, like you said, is he going to work on, when he gets to the point of putting sheetrock on these walls, which he really wants to get to soon, I'm going to have to either record someplace else or be so caught up that I cannot need to do recordings for a little while.
You're going to have
to get that in place. What's that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say that you will have to work ahead.
Yeah, and I'm totally doing that.
I started out self-managing single family. I will say it for my own home. I'm dealing with contractors really, because I've told Dan, since he's in aerospace, it is more cost effective. We have to talk in terms of numbers because you love our numbers. But that it is more cost effective for me to hire out certain people than for him to attempt to do that when he doesn't do certain work daily. Because when certain contractors perform certain tasks daily, they're very efficient in what they do. If you're hiring the best contractors for the task.
Yeah. I just had that discussion with somebody recently. Like, would you rather hire? And there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer to this. It's just maybe a preference. Would you rather hire a general contractor who knows his people that he hires, or would you rather have to general contract yourself and go find those specialists? Or actually, no, it was a different thing. So the general contractor who hires specialists, or hire the guy who says, "Oh yeah, I can do it all." And then you're dealing with a guy who, he can do some electrical and some plumbing and some HVAC, but how well?
They're not masters. They're not going to be master plumbers. They're not going to be master electricians.
Right.
And, what I start with on some of my tasks, unless I do need a specialist, it's at the handyman level, because the handyman level is the most cost-effective level for you. And they can perform so many tasks if you are actually hiring out that kind of work.
Now, handyman are sometimes hard to find, I will say. And we did, to be clear, on this basement, we hired an electrician to do the electrical. We're not silly. You do. And things get inspected, and we're going through all the inspections. So, but when it comes to handyman, because we've actually talked about, how, what things could look like in the future. He's very handy. He enjoys doing a variety of tasks. He's put in stairs, he's put in tile, he's done a lot of things around our house for us. What would that look like if he translated that into an entrepreneurial side hustle for himself? Keep the day job, but on the nights and weekends in the winter, when we can't go boating, which is what we do all summer, what would it look like? But when I talk to real estate agents, they're like, "Ooh, if he does handyman work, tell me, because I can never find one."
It is hard to find really good ones. And the really good ones, you have to be waitlisted. And I am currently waitlisted by my top handyman, who was referred to me by another handyman who retired out.
Are you wait listed or white listed?
Waitlisted.
Oops,
that just means he's got some other projects.
Wait.
Yeah, he's squeezing in some larger projects in between my smaller projects that need to be performed.
Sure. Got it. Yep. Yeah, it's fascinating. And, of course it varies, but Handyman may be the most cost effective, but they're not necessarily inexpensive either. You're not hiring a high schooler to do something.
You're not, unless, you've got somebody really, really, really good. I will say one time when I was still self-managing some single family homes, we had a church friend who had a son who was working on his mechanical engineering degree. Well, he had a little free time in the summer, and so I had him as a temporary handyman handle some things for some properties, and the tenants loved him. He was young. He was, a mechanical engineer. He did really cool stuff, like did some dirt bike and some racing, and he had this mechanical mind. So they were delighted by him.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Well, we'll share a vision we have is that at some point, and the timing is right, and this house is complete. So not tomorrow.
Yeah.
We will have this house complete and paid off and buy a boat. We will move on to the boat and live on a boat. Just the two of us. Talk about space negotiation. A 42-foot trawler. Or 40-foot trawler. We're saying 40-foot. 40-foot trawler that's ocean going. And we're going to start in Minnesota, go down the Mississippi, end up in the Gulf, around Florida, back up into the Great Lakes, and back through Chicago, back to the Mississippi.
Wow, that'll be a fun adventure.
And I'm going to grow my business while we do it.
Well, see, that can be a whole theme, LeAnn, to be quite honest, because I have an entrepreneur friend. She's a serial entrepreneur, and she has her master class teaching systems and processes because she had another class. Before her real estate investing companies, she had another business. And so now she is living the dream. So she's cruising, and then she'll have some pictures or some reels or some things like that. And then her investments continue. That's kind of living the dream there. That was the one thing that she told her husband, John. This is Rawl West. And she told John Hardwick that she wanted to travel. And so in her 70s, that is what she is doing.
Yeah.
Because they built separate businesses, and then they built business together.
Love that.
They spent a lot of time with business, and that can kind of lead to another point that you don't want to be overbalanced, where everything is business and you're squeezing out all the reasons why you wanted to be in business in the first place. And that's for that time freedom and that for financial freedom. And you're always working.
Well, we're going to take a quick break here. You shared what your friend is doing. I've shared what our big vision is. I'm excited to hear, what does your next stage look like in your business as well? So you're listening to Beyond the Business Plan, and my guest today is Sharon Riddle. We will be right back. Hey, sales setters, want to navigate your success with ease? Download the Sailing System, your practical guide to charting a course, setting goals, and growing with purpose. Find it now at joyminder.com or check the show notes below for your roadmap to results. And we are back. My name is LeAnn Lyon. I am the host of this show called Beyond the Business Plan. Today, my guest is Sharon Riddle. She is a partner with her husband and soon to be partner with her daughter in the Excalibur Investments of Texas, where they've been in the real estate world for 20 years. I was going to say 20 plus, but it's actually 20 at the moment. And that has been their entrepreneurial journey. Now, she's told me a few other things we're going to dive into in this section, like she said about being raised with entrepreneurs, that this was not something that she fell into necessarily. We'll get more into that story, but first we're going to conclude what we started before the break. What's your big plan, your big vision for the future? We've talked about other people and having two businesses merging into a new business. My husband and I plan to go on the boat, and I'll work with my business 2 days a week so that we can fully enjoy the 1,000-mile experience we plan on our boat, because you have to find that balance. And why are we working if we're not going towards something that we can truly enjoy as well? So what's yours, Sharon?
Well, what I'm planning ahead is really taking some baby steps first. We're going to we're going to really squeeze out more time for fun stuff. When I was in my W-2 job, we would take time and go to the Dallas Opera. Dallas Opera has a great season coming up this year, and I want to be able to go to several of those performances this year. So do the small things, but also make sure we are having time with our daughter who is engaged. Woohoo! So, got to do all the mother of the bride stuff and really make sure that I have that dedicated time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want it to be an afterthought.
Right.
Because her fiance, their friends, I will tell you, they are a fun crowd. They are a very, very fun crowd in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and it's a fun city. So it's really fun to be in. So I want to have time for them, time for some other family members.
Yeah.
Which I have done. I did that on Mother's Day. So I was there with my mom and my sister and a niece and her baby. And so a lot of mother stuff going on there. And it was just a moment. And you're like, wow, this is just a moment. I love this moment. And so have more of those while we continue to grow the business, not just in multifamily, but also decide what other real estate asset classes work well.
Yeah.
Maybe really traditionally, you make more on the exit when a property is selling in multifamily.
For sure.
Then really with the distributions. And I do have some properties that are continuing their distributions. I have some that have paused them because of the high interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
So I have that situation. But where other things make sense, couple that in. And I've even done that with another person who is another real estate investor who's in my second mastermind group, because I have two that I'm in. And so we're his investor. We're his private lender investor. So we've got a private money element, and he has a unique business plan. And we get our return on our money, increase our velocity on our money in that way. So looking for those opportunities, being alert for them, and also deciding where they make sense in the portfolio.
Yep.
Because we do have our own portfolio as well as future acquisitions with investors.
What I hear is you're saying, and I think this is great, a distinction here. Like our goal is and yours is too, to go towards experiences, but also the relationship, be able to dive more into and have more relationships, which is great. 100%. Life is more about relationship than anything else, in my opinion. But where we're like, we're going to have this experience, we're going to do this thing. And, quite frankly, we have to think about, what do we do after we do the 2 or 3 year experience? What does our life look like after that? We don't know. We haven't necessarily planned that out yet. Right now, we're just focused on getting to that point, being able to do this show from the boat and continue to grow that business and come up with, where is there an exit strategy? So that's a great question about, exit strategy. But let's start before that, entrepreneurship. So when did you worked as a W-2 for 30 years. When did you know you were going to become an entrepreneur? Did you always want to be, or tell me your story?
Well, I hadn't really always thought about it, honestly. I had observed it a great deal because my dad was an entrepreneur, two uncles were an entrepreneur, even my neighbor across the street, my childhood home, she was an entrepreneur. She owned the only toy store in Denton, Texas in the early 70s, and also was the only one who had real estate investments.
Interesting.
Planted a little seed in my little brain as a girl. And so, I observed what I really observed with most of the entrepreneurs in my life was that seasonality,
Mm.
the seasonality of the cash flow. And I was like, wow, that's kind of the tough side of that, because all of them had the seasonality. However, Mrs. Leona Shepherd McDaniel had the seasonality and the investment. So she had both. And so I think that's what kind of gravitated me to real estate, because Dan brought up one day he wanted to go to a Managing Your Money event.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to add multiple streams of income. He wanted more streams of income. He was thinking about security and freedom and living life on your own terms. And so that was really, really on his brain. And what we did is we leveraged my construction brat childhood as a girl and leveraged that into single family real estate, where I was self-managing, because I was around contractors in my childhood home all the time. You and I talked about master plumbers and master electricians. Well, those were people who were in my childhood home because my dad was in construction.
Right.
So we really leveraged something from my past that I never thought I would be using. I thought, oh, I'm never going to be using that. Why did all these self-improvement projects with dad, with my brothers? But yeah, I brought it forward into my entrepreneurial journey and coupled that with my MBA and Dan's MBA.
Got it.
So we could do the numbers, do the financials, have more of a business thesis or business plan, and we could kind of bring all that together. So I was really utilizing every bit of what had passed through my life in a really interesting way.
Very cool. I know you mentioned that you're part of two masterminds, and so I wanted to ask you about that. How important is it to have mentorship or community as an entrepreneur?
I think it's really huge. I really do. And I will say that I gained so much expansion and acceleration in my business. And this was at the multifamily pivot, the juncture in 2005, because I had mentors. Previously, I had coaches. So I had coaches for very specific tasks or very specific strategies that I wanted. But with the mastermind, first of all, with Brad Sumrock and the Millionaire Multifamily Mastermind, going into his community, I learned about the numbers of multifamily. So all their metrics, what is strong performance, what is weak performance. Mm-hmm. And then I also had opportunities to be involved with their coaches, whether it was underwriting for a property or just understanding the numbers and what the numbers were telling me. Plus, I had people who were in that community. So you had peers who could help you up-level your skill sets just in discussions, just in casual discussions.
Yeah.
Not even, formal discussions or formal teaching opportunities. And then within the last 2 years, I added a second mentor, and that was specifically for capital raising. So it was raising funds in real estate. So I could better work with investors and really think about what they needed, not just what I needed, but what are their thoughts? What are their whys in their life? What are their goals? And think about that. I thought about that for myself, but then I could take those thoughts and think about their thoughts and their dreams.
So what is your why?
It is my why. It's another part of my why, is bringing investors along on the journey who have different dreams and goals than I do, which is perfectly fine. It's right. Perfectly acceptable. It's just how do I operate with them and help them execute.
Well, that's very similar then to what we do at Joyminder Solutions as well. Like, we can help people start their business journey because of our experience of working with a lot of people, but we're not trying to get anybody to do our business in this
Right.
case. You are, and that's fine as well. And that's the way a lot of businesses are. Real estate is great. You want to help people get involved in multifamily real estate like you're doing so that they can reach their different dreams. With Joy Minder Solutions, we want people to get into business. We just don't care particularly which business they're going towards getting into. But I think real estate is a really strong business. I was going to ask you this question. When you started the real estate business, were you still W-2? Did you do both for a little bit of time?
For a little bit of time, I did both.
How
Yeah.
long?
It wasn't easy. It
Yeah.
was probably for maybe about a year.
Okay, so not terribly.
Again, but then again, I will say I had an employer who made the decision for me. They had a reduction force. Some people have had that. And we already had some investment in seed money
Yeah.
and could move that forward. So it wasn't like I had nothing to do, but I could also utilize that time freedom in that space. And my daughter was in Montessori education at the time.
I love that.
So I became one of the reading parents. I
Oh,
was a reading parent with a nanotechnology professor.
nice.
With the analyst and the scientist. That's what we called ourselves. And then I could also be a driver, like for field trips. So I could do that. And then she could have some time to do her homework or spend some additional time in her classroom
Mhm.
to get ahead on projects that she wanted to. She was very self-directed.
And you are not the first or last person that will tell me that they became an entrepreneur, in part because of the freedom we get to have and raise our kids, because that was part of my journey too. When you are an entrepreneur, you do get to make those choices too. If you have younger children and you want to be able to spend time. So we hired an au pair, which is a type of nanny basically that live in young person from another country who actually came through the whole legal visa system of the United States and stayed in our home, but she would take care of the kids in my home. And so when I had a break, I was out there holding, feeding, doing things, but then I was also able to turn the lock on the door and know that they were getting excellent care, that they weren't stuck in the same four walls every day. Montessori is also very much about experiential learning, which I think is amazing. But that's what my kids got to have by being able to stay home too. This has been so much fun, and I have one more question for you, but before I get there, can you quickly tell us where is the best way for people to catch up with you? And I know you have a mission to reach your 100 families that you're working with. How could somebody know if maybe they're one of your 100 families? Just if you can tell us quickly those answers.
Well, they can go to my website. I do have a website. So it's www.excalibre, EXCALIBRE, Texas.com. They can go there and they can set up a call with me. We call that your Money for Life call. So it's a little casual call where we can make some determinations if now is the good time for you to become a future investor. And we've had those conversations with people. Dan has even had a conversation with an individual in the DMV, and then we ended up going to breakfast with them and dinner, and they're future investors.
Mhm.
So those can be very casual. They're not threatening. We just kind of do some assessments and figure out what's going on and how you can get to where you want to be or where you're thinking about being.
Wonderful. Are you on LinkedIn or what are your social medias? I think you said you're on a lot of social media. So where do people find you there? Do they type in your name or your business?
They type in my name. You can go LinkedIn, you can go to Facebook, you can go to Instagram, and I'm Sharon Riddle.
Can you slowly spell the name for our listening podcast? So we're going to put all the links below. Don't worry about it. But, if you're listening, do you want to go ahead and spell that out?
Okay, it's Sharon, SHARON, Birdsong, BIRDSONG, Riddle, RIDDLE.
There. Nice and easy to remember, but
It's easy. And in the search engines, if you just put in Sharon Riddle, yeah, it'll pop up and you'll see me.
perfect. Excellent. Well, then my final question is for those people who are like on the fence, like they've thought about doing something extra, maybe they're burned out in their professional career. I know real estate in various forms, whether you become a real estate salesperson like me and I'm building a team, or like you, where you're not even needing a real estate license to do what you're doing, is an option. Of course, there's lots of other options. Come on over to Joyminder Solutions and find lots of options to consider. But if they're on the fence, if they're not quite sure if entrepreneurship is for them or not, what would you tell them to think about in order to make that determination for themselves?
Well, having a call with me is a really good idea. So we can have that conversation because I do have the advantage that other people may not. And that is that I had family who were entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
We can really kind of talk about what that lifestyle can look like. What are some of the flexibilities? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the rewards? We can talk about that. I also have an ebook coming out.
Yay.
I had the little graphic for you. It's Spilling the Tea with Sharon Riddle, Spilling the Tea on Multifamily Investing. So that's coming out soon. We're just working on the preface. So it's really close. And then I do have another Labor of Love that is a multi-author book. And we're going to have that launch party in September of this year. And that's the networking effect. And that really kind of ties in with everything that we've been talking about, LeAnn, is don't do things alone. Have a network, have a community that you can operate within, because that is where you're going to get the most expansion.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. This has been a fun conversation. We've talked about being a mom as an entrepreneur, wives as entrepreneurs, construction in our homes as entrepreneurs, and just the journey of being an entrepreneur. So I just want to say thank you, Sharon, for joining us.
Thanks so much for your time, LeAnn. I really value it.
Thank you. And for our audience, I want to thank you also for joining us on this show, this episode of Beyond the Business Plan, to maybe unleash your joyful business potential. Remember, entrepreneurship is a voyage that you can take with others. So find your tribe for the journey. Maybe it's Sharon, maybe it's me, maybe it's both of us. And give us a like. Go find Sharon or myself. Give us a like, subscribe, or whatever you do on your favorite podcast or video platform to keep shining and aligning with your purpose and Joyminder Solutions. Then come on back next week, every week, for our new inspiring episodes. And until that time, I am LeAnn Lyon, your Chief Joy Officer, LeAnnLyon.com, signing off. Keep spreading the joy, keep leading with heart, and I will catch you on the next wave of success. Hey, sales setters, do you need energy without the crash? Check out the lifestyle section in our resources on joyminder.com/resources for delicious, healthier coffee alternatives to boost your focus and fuel your hustle. Skip the jitters, love your brew. You can also go directly to whyilovemycoffee.com, and I'll see you there. Thank you for sailing with us, sales setters. Remember, your journey goes beyond the business plan. So keep charting your own course, leading with heart, and tuning in for more joy and inspiration. Find all the resources and connections in the show notes below, and your support means the world to us. So join our conversation at #Joyminder, or simply share your favorite takeaways in the comments section below. Until next time, set your sails for success.